the dog would not move. Not for the grieving widow. Not for the commanding captain. Not even for the honor guard standing in perfect formation. As the final hymn echoed through the chapel and tears fell like quiet rain, the German shepherd climbed gently into the open casket and lay across his partner's chest, resting his head over the officer's still heart as if waiting for it to beat again. The room froze. No one had the courage to pull him away. And what the officers discovered next would leave every single person there shaken to the core. Before we continue, if you believe in loyalty, kindness, and the power of second chances, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that love never truly leaves. Officer Daniel Hayes had served the city for 18 years. He was the kind of man who stayed late without complaint, who bought coffee for rookies on their first night shift, who remembered the names of children in the neighborhoods he patrolled. But everyone in the department knew that Daniel was never alone. At his side, always alert and steady, was Rex, a 4-year-old German shepherd with intelligent amber eyes and a coat of black and deep tan. They had been paired 3 years earlier, and from the first day of training, something about them just fit. Rex responded to Daniel's voice like it was the only sound that mattered in the world. Daniel trusted Rex's instincts more than his own. They worked narcotics, search and rescue, and high-risk warrants. There were nights filled with tension and uncertainty, and mornings when exhaustion pressed heavily against Daniel's bones. But no matter how hard the shift, Rex would sit patiently at the end of the day, tail gently brushing the floor, waiting for Daniel's quiet praise and the scratch behind the ears that meant, "Good job, partner." Their bond wasn't just professional. It was unspoken understanding. It was shared danger and shared survival. Then came the night that changed everything. A call about a distressed individual barricaded inside an abandoned warehouse reached dispatch. Daniel and Rex were among the first to respond. The situation escalated quickly. In the chaos of flashing lights and shouted commands, Daniel pushed a civilian out of harm's way. Moments later, a loud crack split the air. Daniel fell. The scene became a blur of movement and sirens, but Rex never left his side. Even as paramedics worked desperately, Rex paced in tight circles, whining low in his throat, his nose pressed to Daniel's hand. Daniel didn't make it to the hospital. The department was shattered. Funerals for officers are heavy with tradition, folded flags, polished boots, the final radio call. But nothing about this day felt routine. The chapel was filled wall to wall with uniforms and black suits. Daniel's wife, Emily, sat in the front row, her hands clenched tightly together. Behind her sat officers who had trained with him, laughed with him, trusted him with their lives. And then there was Rex. They had tried to keep him outside at first. Department policy discouraged animals during formal services. But Rex had refused to settle. He pulled against the leash, his ears pinned back, his body trembling with confusion. Finally, Captain Morales gave a silent nod. Rex was part of this family too. When Rex approached the casket, the room held its breath. The wooden coffin was lined with soft white fabric, Daniel dressed in full uniform, his badge polished, his expression calm in a way that felt unbearably wrong. Rex sniffed the edge, then placed his paws carefully on the side. With a slow, deliberate motion, he climbed in and lowered himself onto Daniel's chest, curling his body as if shielding him from the cold. A soft murmur rippled through the crowd. Some officers wiped their eyes. Others looked away, unable to bear the sight. But Rex did not move. He laid there for nearly 20 minutes, completely still except for the steady rise and fall of his breathing. It was as if he understood something none of them did. Finally, Officer Grant, Daniel's closest friend, stepped forward. He knelt beside the casket and gently placed a hand on Rex's collar, whispering reassurances. That was when he noticed it. Rex wasn't just lying there. He was pawing lightly at Daniel's uniform jacket, right near the inside pocket. At first, Grant thought it was instinct, a confused attempt to wake his partner. But the motion was precise, repeated. Rex nudged the same spot again and again, letting out a low, urgent whine. Grant hesitated, then reached into the pocket. Inside was a small, sealed envelope. The handwriting on the front read, "For Rex." The chapel fell into stunned silence as Grant handed the envelope to Captain Morales, who carefully opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter, folded neatly. The captain cleared his throat, his voice unsteady as he began to read. Daniel had written the letter months earlier, after a departmental seminar about emergency preparedness. In it, he explained that if anything ever happened to him, Rex was not to be reassigned immediately. He asked that Rex be allowed to retire from active duty and live with his family. He described how Rex loved chasing tennis balls in the backyard and how he slept at the foot of Daniel's bed every night. He wrote that Rex had given him courage on his hardest days, and that he hoped to return that loyalty in the end. The room broke. Officers who had faced danger without flinching now wept openly. Emily covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She had never known about the letter. Rex, as if sensing the shift in emotion, lifted his head and looked around. His amber eyes moved from face to face before settling on Emily. Slowly, he climbed out of the casket and walked toward her. Without hesitation, he rested his head in her lap. From that moment on, Rex became more than a memory of Daniel. He became a living piece of him. The weeks that followed were not easy. Rex stopped eating regularly. He would sit by the front door each evening at the exact hour Daniel used to come home, staring at the knob as if willing it to turn. Emily struggled with her own grief, but she found strength in caring for Rex. They were both navigating the same hollow silence. One afternoon, while going through Daniel's belongings, Emily found his training journal. Page after page detailed Rex's progress, his quirks, even the silly habit he had of tilting his head at the word buddy. Tucked between the pages was a photograph of Daniel and Rex at the beach, wind in their faces, both looking wildly happy. Something shifted in Emily that day. Instead of letting the house remain heavy with absence, she began volunteering with a local program that paired retired service dogs with veterans coping with trauma. She brought Rex along. At first, he was distant, reserved. But then he met Thomas, a quiet former medic who rarely spoke and avoided eye contact. When Thomas sat down on a bench, Rex approached slowly and placed his head against the man's knee. Thomas didn't move for a long time. Then, almost hesitantly, he rested a hand on Rex's back. It was the first time anyone had seen Thomas smile in months. Rex began visiting the center weekly. Each time, he seemed a little lighter. A little more present. The grief didn't vanish, but it transformed into something purposeful. Daniel's final wish had not only protected Rex, it had created a new path. Years later, a small bronze plaque was installed at the police department's memorial garden. It bore Daniel's name, along with a simple line beneath it: partner, protector, family. At the dedication ceremony, Rex, older now with a graying muzzle, lay calmly at Emily's feet. When the ceremony ended, he walked to the base of the plaque and sat, tail gently sweeping the ground. The officers watching understood something profound in that quiet moment. Loyalty is not trained. It is earned. It is built in shared trials and sealed in love. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support allows stories of hope and loyalty like this to reach more people who need them. And before we close, I have one special request. In the comments, write the word loyalty if you believe that love never truly dies. Because sometimes, even in the deepest grief, we discover something that shocks us, not tragedy, but the enduring power of devotion. Rex never left the officer's coffin that day because he was guarding more than a body. He was protecting a bond that death itself could not break. And in doing so, he reminded everyone in that chapel that the purest love often walks beside us on four faithful legs.